production fee was paid to WBBZ-TV from Buffalo Healthy Living magazine for this special presentation. I'm John DeSciullo. In January 2023, early into a Monday night football game, millions of viewers were stunned as they witnessed Buffalo Bill Damar Hamlin, number 3, collapse on the field in real time due to cardiac arrest. Hamlin had tackled a Cincinnati Bengals receiver whose shoulder collided with Hamlin's chest. Hamlin stood up but collapsed seconds later. His survival was completely dependent upon the heroic efforts of the medical staff who attended to him directly on the field. Cardiac arrest causes close to 450,000 deaths in the U.S. each year and is the cause of roughly half of the deaths linked with heart attack and stroke. The American Heart Association and Stroke Statistics 2022 update calls cardiac arrest a public health crisis. Now here is a stunning statistic. There are more than 356,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests annually in the United States, and nearly 90% are fatal. Nearly 1,000 people of all ages experience a cardiac arrest every day, and only 10% of them survive. 37.1% of cardiac arrest incidents are witnessed by lay people. A little over 12% are witnessed by 9/11 responders, and about 50% of cases are not witnessed by anyone. So the prevalence of CPR training is very important, and it's only 18% of the population, although 65% of the people say they've had training at some point. Now, very few lay people, maybe about 6%, were able to use an automated external defibrillator. We're going to call it an AED. And only about 1% used the AED effectively. So there's a lot to learn, which is why the following special presentation of your Hometown Health Connection Community Conversation focuses on understanding cardiac arrest, the importance of CPR, and the life-saving mission that these machines and these procedures will have for you. And you're going to see the world's first mobile ECMO truck, which is providing specialized care for cardiac arrest patients, ordinarily only delivered in hospitals. Our show is presented here on WBBZ in partnership with Buffalo Healthy Living magazine. Let's meet our guests. Annette Adamczak is a CPR lead instructor and founder of the Emily Rose Foundation, Incorporated. Annette's daughter, Emily Rose, lost her life to cardiac arrest at the age of 14 in 2009 at a soccer practice. Dr. Vijay Iyer is an interventional cardiologist at Great Lakes Cardiovascular and director of Complex Valve Clinic and Structural Heart Interventions at Buffalo General Medical Center and Gates Vascular. His clinical practice includes general cardiology, interventional cardiology, and complex valvular heart diseases. Dr. Iyer has performed more than 2,000 transcatheter aortic valve replacement surgeries and is involved in research for many national clinical trials. Dr. Kenneth Snyder welcomes back to the show. He's a vice president at physician quality at Kaleida Health, a neurosurgery professor at University at Buffalo Jacobs School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, and a neurosurgeon with UBNS Neurosurgery. He has authored numerous publications and is trained in all general neurosurgical procedures, including brain tumor, spine, and peripheral nerve surgery. And Dr. Demetri Yannopoulos is an interventional cardiologist who cares for adult patients at University of Minnesota Health Clinics and Surgery Center, the University of Minnesota Medical Center, East Bank Hospital, and University of Minnesota Health Heart Care in Fridley. He is a professor of medicine in the cardiovascular division at the University of Minnesota Medical School and has authored numerous publications. He's also at the forefront in helping to make the world's first life-saving ECMO truck a reality. We'll learn about that in a little bit, and he'll join us through Zoom technology. Annette, let me start with you, and I know this is a difficult story to tell, but it's an important story to tell, and you've really created a situation where tragedy has turned into helping other people. Tell us about what happened to your daughter on that soccer field several years ago.
Okay, so in June of 2009, my 14-year-old daughter was at a normal soccer practice doing a lap, and as she was coming around the field, she said, "Mom, everything's going black," and she collapsed. She had what they call a syncope episode. She passed out. At the time, There were coaches on hand, but it was a practice. And back in 2009, not every soccer field had an AED on standby. Because it was a practice, there were no, firemen, positioned or whatever. So CPR was not started in time. And one of the reasons was because no one knew what a sudden cardiac arrest looked like.
And I can't imagine the horror of that because you're there and you're seeing what's happened. Did they take it very seriously, the other players, the other coaches? Or they just figured she just passed out or just just fell down for a second?
Well, she had syncope episodes before. She had them in the swimming pool. She was a swimmer. So there were different things that, alluded to the fact that she was passing out, without reasoning. But when she did go down, all her teammates, kind of gathered around and they wanted to know what was going on. She collapsed in my arms and took her last breath there. Oh. But no one, again, knew that we should start CPR. We were told that if she passed out, just get her up and keep her moving and she'll come back too. And that just wasn't the case because it was a sudden cardiac arrest.
Had there been, you'd mentioned this other condition that you just mentioned, had there been some other history of heart situations with her?
She was under the care of a cardiologist, and what was wrong with her heart, which we found out after her autopsy, was that she had an anomaly in her heart where something wasn't where it was supposed to be. So every time she exercised or had a very stressful situation when her heart was really beating fast, it would pinch off the vein that went into her heart and close it off, like when you would run over a garden hose. So that would essentially stop her heart.
How did you find the strength to continue on and then move it forward to teach people CPR?
As a mom on the field, not knowing what to do, I knew how to do CPR, I just didn't know when to do CPR. So my thought process was, I don't want to see another parent have to go through this and witness their kid collapse and not come back. So I went out in 2010 and coordinated with the American Heart Association and with local fire departments and local ambulance companies. And we did a community event where we trained 150 people in full CPR. And then got on the bandwagon and realized that they weren't teaching CPR in the schools. So why not teach them the hands-only technique that the Heart Association, backs, and that became my mission.
Well, it's been a great mission, and later in the program we're going to see a demonstration where you teach me how to do this with one of the mannequins. So
right.
It's important information that you'll see. Dr. Iyer, welcome to the program. Talk to me about what a cardiac event is. We hear this now more and more, obviously, with everything that's been happening. What's a cardiac event?
The term cardiac arrest essentially implies a condition where the heart is unable to pump enough blood supply to the rest of the body, and primarily the first organ to be affected is the brain. A cardiac arrest can either occur because the heart's beating too fast, what's called ventricular tachycardia or fibrillation, or it is beating too slow. And in both of those circumstances, the heart is unable to generate enough blood supply to sustain the function of the vital organs of the body.
And we heard about a situation with Annette's daughter where there was some issues there. What generally leads to cardiac problems? Is it something that happens when someone is born and they just grow into to develop some of these things? Are there risk factors because of our diet or lifestyle that add to it, or is it all of the above?
So cardiac arrest encompasses a broad spectrum of conditions, and it's really can be a number of different things. The commonest things that we hear about are in older people, blocked arteries, a heart attack leading to a cardiac arrest, and that's probably the commonest form. But in addition to that, there are a number of other things that can cause cardiac arrest, and that include abnormalities of the conduction system of the heart, what we call channelopathies, meaning people born with an abnormal protein in their heart muscle that causes the heart to go into an abnormal rhythm. There can be anomalies like what Annette mentioned, what we call anomalous coronary arteries, where the blood vessels are arising from a wrong spot, causing it to get compressed. There can be conditions called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. There can be other conditions that cause a decline in the heart function. So there's a broad swath of things that can cause this. That's why it's kind of hard to say, when people say, how do I know that I'm at risk? it's very hard to describe all of the different conditions that are at risk. So when we talk about cardiac arrest, this is where treatment becomes extremely important, because fortunately it doesn't matter what the pathways leading to the arrest are, the treatment paradigms from that point onwards are pretty similar in the acute situation.
I learned a lot hosting the show and with Buffalo Healthy Living magazine, and I wanted you to explain a condition. I think it's called commotio cordis. And how is that what caused Damar Hamlin's cardiac arrest?
You know, we will never know exactly what caused Damar's situation, but we speculate that that is the most likely cause. Commotio cordis, fortunately, is a fairly rare and unusual condition where a blow to the chest at the right portion of the cardiac cycle causes the heart to go into an irregular rhythm called ventricular tachycardia or fibrillation, causing a cardiac arrest. It is fairly rare, fortunately, but it can happen with any blow to the chest.
Well, and that's what we saw on that Monday Night Football game. And Dr. Snyder, you were there to have to treat Damar Hamlin, one of the physicians who oversaw his care when he was transferred from Cincinnati to Buffalo General Medical Center at Kaleida. And we're delighted that he's doing so well, and all of us were heartened by his progress. But we know that many who experience cardiac arrest are not as fortunate. We just heard a story the day we're recording this program about Mrs. Kim Pagula, who suffered a cardiac arrest, went through CPR with one of her daughters, and is alive but is not doing as well. So we see the functionality here and the complications. Talk to us about what you see as a doctor in those complications and how you treat somebody following a cardiac arrest, whether it would be somebody like Damar, who seems to be doing really, really well, or Mrs. Pagula, who seems to be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and again, it was an honor to play a very small part with an incredible care team that was around Damar, and obviously wouldn't speak to any specifics at all about the individuals that we treat. Again, it's not our care firm as it is all of my patients. I think one thing that Vijay brought up that's critically important, 20% of our cardiac output pumps directly up to our brain. It has no other purpose than to deliver 1/5 of its blood supply to our brain organ. When we lose that perfusion supply, all it takes is about 10 seconds of lack of blood supply and we become unconscious. And again, be it either, God that we believe in or evolution of some sort, one of the reasons we drop or hit the ground is it's much easier to pump blood directly horizontally across than it is upwards. And so for the vast majority of people that haven't lost complete cardiac function because of an inability electrically to pump blood, if you lay them down flat or lift their legs up, they often would regain consciousness. If someone is a state where the heart is not beating at all or is not beating functionally to deliver blood supply, you have about 30 seconds to restore blood if the blood supply is 20% or below what it needs to be normally, and irreversible death may occur. And it occurs in potentially very vital areas where multiple areas of the brain have areas at risk where large blood supplies overlap one another. And so what CPR does for us is restores, not perfectly, we need at least about half of a normal perfusion for the brain cells to maintain viability. CPR gives you about 25 to 40% of your normal perfusion of your brain if it is done perfectly and done well. And that's the critical aspect. And I think one of the things that Dr. Iyer brought up that's really important is our role as citizens to our community members or loved ones that we see going through this. They cannot help themselves. I just mentioned you've got between 10 seconds and 30 seconds or a little bit more, where if you're not starting to maintain some form of perfusion, there's chance injury could be instilled. And the questions become, are you trained well enough to do this? Knowing the current methodology of maintaining very high and rapid rate of CPR with good depth, with oxygenation, the 30 to 2 or whatever cycle we're going to do. And would you do this and feel comfortable doing this for another individual that you see? How are you going to help them? I think that's the important messaging that you're bringing forward. Are we teaching people enough skill set, and do we feel as a calling as citizens for one another the recognition and the ability to help each other out?
Well, it certainly seems that there's a wave now to bring this more to public light, certainly in light of Damar Hamlin. Dr. Yannopoulos, I understand we have Dr. Iyer to thank for you being here. You're on Zoom from Minneapolis, and I know you know one another and your friends. Dr. Iyer was excited to tell us about a mobile ECMO truck, and I guess you've made that possible. We've learned today how important it is, obviously, to intervene quickly when someone is going through an arrest, cardiac arrest, but with CPR and the EAD. But let's take this a step further with the ECMO truck. What does it stand for, and how did you come about to put this together?
A lot of people that do not resuscitate quickly, they have some kind of reason that they don't do so. And as time goes by, the blood flow, as Dr. Snyder suggested, is so low that creates kind of a state in the body that it cannot really come out of just by doing CPR alone. Blood doesn't go to the organs to oxygenate them, and then the blood becomes more acidotic, meaning it gets a little bit more crampy in a way. Like when we have cramps in our muscles when we exercise, there is inability of the blood to oxygenate, therefore produces less oxygen towards the organs, and therefore the organs cannot be sustained in life. So almost a decade ago now, the idea has been that if patients that are unsuccessful to be resuscitated by the common means of doing resuscitation shocks and giving medications can be treated with a machine called extracorporeal membrane oxygenation to start the heart and perfuse the blood in the brain and the heart artificially by taking the blood out of the body through a big tube, through the groin, putting it into a pump, giving oxygen to it, exchanging the carbon dioxide out, and putting it back oxygenated and with pressure inside the arteries to do the job of the heart and the lungs. If we could do that, we hypothesized for a period of time that this would change the outcomes of people, because we will have the opportunity to look for the cause of the arrest. We would not care about maintaining CPR, so we could actually have a job that can be performed easier in an emergency department or in a cath lab. And at the end, we'll support the patient when their own heart has failed to be able to survive long term.
So you developed this treatment, the ECMO treatment. So is it something that, I said the ECMO truck, is it something that arrives on scene when somebody is having a cardiac arrest, or is it a treatment that happens once someone's brought to a medical facility?
This is an excellent question. So for about 7 years, we tried to do the following. Because the most important determinant of how people do is time, the longer the duration you receive CPR, the less likely you are to survive. So that's why it's very important for people to recognize it immediately and call 911 and actually try to get a defibrillator on time, because failure to achieve pulses very, very early, after 30 minutes, leads to 100% death almost. So we wanted basically to bring this machine to the patient faster. So we developed a team that is activated by the field, by the EMS providers, and we are responding within 10 or 12 minutes initially to hospital emergency departments closer to the patient. So we would basically rendezvous with a patient with ongoing CPR in an emergency department as fast as possible, with the goal to place them on ECMO less than an hour or 45 minutes of CPR. That is great because it has been shown in our hands, in an experienced team, to save patients about 6 or 7 times more likely to survive than just a pair of hands and just some medications. That was not good enough though, because that is about 35-40% of people that would not have survived now survive, but we still have 65% of people that end up dying. So the next step, which has been implemented about a year now, was to try to get closer to the patients by providing the team and the expertise and the infrastructure as close as possible to the patient's site. So while the team works like Ken's team was working in the field, imagine instead of the patient having pulses, what would be the option for our athlete there? Where you have to be basically placed on a mechanical machine device to do CPR and then go to the hospital, hopefully we'll get pulses. But that takes a lot of time, coordination, teams to organize. So we are trying to do the opposite. We'll have the team ready and we would go to the field and bring the patient inside the truck and basically provide all the care that we have emergently.
Well, it seems like what I'm hearing from everybody is time is of the essence, technology and using it to the, to the degree that we can efficiently, and of course learning CPR. And Annette, I know you're going to teach me now a little bit about some of that, so let's take a look at that video, and I want to thank our guests for this part one of our discussion. We're going to continue the discussion, but for right now, we're going to learn a little bit of CPR. Take a look. So Annette, somebody is in distress. What do we do?
First thing you need to do is determine whether or not it is a sudden cardiac arrest. You're going to check for responsiveness. Tap him on the shoulder, say, hey, are you okay? If he doesn't respond, your next step is to take no more than 10 seconds and you're going to look for a sign of normal breathing, a normal rise and fall of the chest. You do that by putting your head down near his mouth. So that way, if he's breathing, you can feel it,
the air.
Right? And you can also hear it.
Now, if somebody is not breathing, do you go the old school route and administer breath into the mouth?
Nope, we're not going to even do that with bystander CPR or hands-only CPR. The most important factor is to get that blood circulating. There's already oxygen contained within the bloodstream, and we're going to move it around. That's the most important part. So when we go to do compressions, we want to look to see where the sternum is. We have to remove all the clothing off the chest, okay? So if you see where this V is, that indicates where your ribs come together in the center of your chest. You're going to put 2 fingers down, heel of your hand goes just above those 2 fingers. So literally you're in the center of the chest. You're going to lock your fingers, lock your hands, bring your elbows over top, your shoulders up, and you're going to push down.
This is a panic situation. People are in distress. We don't know what's happening.
Right.
You have to try to keep calm during all of this.
You do. And as long as you have already asked someone to call 911 and go get an AED, more advanced help is already on its way. So we just have to be here to provide that life-saving circulation so that this person can actually live.
And I'm going to try it now. So
Okay.
I put the heel.
Again, 2 fingers above that V, two fingers width.
Okay.
Okay. Now put the heel of your hand, which is right here on the palm.
Right.
And then lock your fingers.
Doesn't matter which hand.
No, sir, it does not. Now, what I need you to do, though, is straighten up, lock those elbows, bring the shoulders way up over the top, and it's going to give you, gravity to help push you down.
Yeah, you feel it.
Okay?
And then keep,
push down.
and go.
And you have to go down to a depth of at least 2 inches, at least 100 to 116 beats per minute.
And am I going to hurt the person?
If you crack ribs, that's okay. Ribs are easier to crack or easier to fix than a heart that has stopped.
Now, you have the AED already on the person.
Right.
But let's talk about that, because what if an AED isn't available?
Well, if it is available, the pads are going to be contained within the unit, and the first thing you do when the unit arrives is you turn it on.
Adult patient.
No matter what they look like, they are going to all act the same. They're going to verbally tell you what to do, and a lot of times they will signal with different lights to tell you, what to do next. Right now, it's said to please stand clear because it's trying to look for a heartbeat. And if it finds it, it's not going to shock the person.
Everyone clear.
Now it tells everyone to stand clear.
They're standing clear.
Shock button.
Push the shock button. Go ahead.
Shock delivered.
And then you will see the person jolt.
Begin CPR.
So the person gets the jolt.
Right, and
then you
hopefully
begin this-
you go
this
right
thing.
back into CPR.
Right on top.
Now, a lot of times you will find that you are only going to do effective CPR for like 30 seconds. And if you start getting fatigued, your compressions are not effective, right? So you're going to bring the next person in, and we're going to take turns and go back and forth.
Back and forth, because timing is critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more circulation, the constant circulation afterwards, the better the prognosis could be for this person to survive.
Critical information, life-saving information. What is that ticking?
That's a metronome to let you know the speed of the compressions that you should do. Now, a lot of the AEDs have a card inside, almost like a SIM card, that can transport with the patient to the hospital, and it will tell the doctors how many compressions, how many shocks were administered, whether there was rescue breaths, and how that patient was doing.
So we got that upper view, and Chatham will show it one more time. Timing is of the essence. When something happens and somebody's in distress, you need to really get this done quickly.
Absolutely. Every minute you decrease that you don't do CPR, you lose 10% survival rate.
And everybody should learn this.
They should.
Yep.
No way around it.
Thanks to you, Annette, for teaching people
Thank
this
you.
life-saving procedure. Remember, learning CPR is very important for you and your families. Something you should learn, maybe even practice at home as well. You could save a loved one, whether it's in public or whether in the privacy of your own home. This is a very important topic, and CPR is certainly something we should all learn. And thanks to all of our guests for participating in these special conversations. So let's take a look. The American Heart Association CPR and First Aid Information classes, right down this website. It's cpr.heart.org. And then you'll find the resources for the classes, cpr.heart.org. Things to know about CPR, you can go to this website, cdc.gov/heart disease and CPR. Now for AED and CPR online and in-person classes, the Red Cross is where you need to go at redcross.org, and you'll find their landing page for Take a Class and using the AED and what it is. The American Heart Association has certifications here in Western New York. Take a look at the website on your screen for more information. And the Emily Rose Foundation, you'll find them on social media, and everything that we just told you is going to be at buffalohealthyliving.com. Thanks for watching this special edition of your Hometown Health Connection Community Conversations. Remember, be the bystander that makes a difference.
What's up, everybody? It's D Ham. Once again, I want to thank everybody for the love and support over these past few weeks. As you know, CPR saved my life earlier this year on the field, and CPR could easily save your life or someone you love. That's why I'm proud to announce that I'm partnering with the American Heart Association and kicking off Damar Hamlin's 3 for Heart CPR Challenge. And of course, this one's got 3 steps. Step 1, go to heart.org/3 to watch a short video to learn hands-only CPR. Step 2, donate to the AHA to fund CPR awareness and education. And step 3, challenge 3 friends to do the same. To kick things off, I'm challenging the GOATs. LeBron James, Tom Brady, and Michelle Obama, you've all been challenged. And one more thing, make sure you share your videos on all socials and tag me and have your hearts up.